When the music stopped, Citibank lost billions in everything from mortgages to credit cards. While Chuck was dancing, others were involved in more serious pursuits. James Cain, the boss of Bear Stearns, was on a course.
James Cain, CEO of Bear Stearns, was on the course on June 14, 2007, and out of reach at the Hollywood Golf Club, where he had permission to land his helicopter when the company suffered a 10% drop in operating earnings. He played again the following week, June 21st, as banks pressured to increase collateral on the loans they'd made. He played yet again the following day when the biggest rescue of a hedge fund in a decade was launched.
As Merrill Lynch lost $100 million a day that same summer, their boss Stan O'Neill was more concerned with getting his golf handicap down from 10 to 9, playing 20 rounds in 6 weeks between the 12th of August and the 30th of September.
It's impossible for the human mind to grasp the total amount of money that has been required to build the America we know today. Where then does all this money come from?
It's almost impossible to believe people didn't know something was wrong. While foreclosures soared in 2007, the FBI reported a 31% increase in suspicious activity reports in the American mortgage market, up 800% on 2003. In June this year, the FBI arrested 400 people and charged them with over $1 billion of mortgage fraud, making plain this is only the tip of a very large iceberg.
George Parr, as an investment banker, how do you think we're going to get through this crisis?
Well, of course, it depends who you are. If you're holding a mortgage or if you're on middle to low income, then, of course, you're stuffed.
So what's going to happen to you and to your bank? There's a rumour going around that you're going to be taken over by a Spanish bank.
Yes, it's a possibility. It will be a very, very sad day. It'll mean I've nothing to look forward to except a compensation payment of £12 million and a £5 million pension fund.
Isn't that rather a lot of money to pay someone who, after all, did so much damage to his company? We can all understand big rewards for success, but this is a reward for failure.
Oh, no, it's not a reward for failure. It's compensation for failure. And they probably think it's worth paying £12 million to stop me doing whatever I was doing to the company.
So why are Spanish banks in particular in a position to buy up other companies? I mean, earlier in the year we saw Alliance and Leicester bought by Santander. Didn't they lose money on these toxic financial products?
No, the bloody Spanish didn't, and for one very good reason. Spanish banks aren't allowed to hold CDOs or SIVs and things like that. It's against their law. So I have one question. Why wasn't it against our law for British banks to hold them? If it had been, we wouldn't have lost all this money on them. It's very, very unfair.
So you would approve of tighter regulation for the city?
I didn't say that. Self-regulation is the answer.
You mean there'll be no more investment in CDOs and SIVs?
Absolutely. We wouldn't touch them with a barge bowl today. Although there are some new things coming into the city which everybody's getting very enthusiastic about.
You're not serious. What things?
They're called remixes.
Remix?
Yes, I'm not making this up. Re-securitizations of real estate mortgage investment conduits. It's where you take a lot of mortgages, you chop them up, you put them into bonds and mix up the bonds and trade them. You see, over $9.3 billion worth of remixes were created this year.
But they sound just the same as CDOs.
Oh, no, they're completely different. Well, actually, they're nearly the same, but there are crucial differences. The mortgages won't be ones sold to people with no income.
Well, that's a relief.
Just to people who can't prove their income.
Well, I'm sorry, it sounds as though you haven't learned any lessons at all. It sounds as though the whole merry-go-round will start again with people in the city and on Wall Street thinking they're going to make money out of nothing.
Not at all, no. We know there's absolute rule in the city that you can't make money out of nothing.
Never?
Never, ever. Only a complete idiot would think otherwise.
Except?
Except just this once. We think we might.
Now we're getting to the point that is news.
As realisation grew that subprime lending had left a huge hole in the bank's balance sheets, fear took over from greed and banks stopped lending to each other. As the crisis mounted and credit dried up, governments were left with the choice to let banks face the consequences of their actions or give them a lifeline.
Northern Rock was a particularly difficult case because we had an election coming up, at least we thought we did. That's now been postponed in the best interests of the country and the British people. But I think that as we saw with Lehman's this year, if you let a bank go to the wall, there is a knock-on effect as the losses spread throughout the system. So instead of letting banks go to the wall, we're letting them go to a hole in the wall where they can take out more money and use it to keep trading.
But still, no one knows the extent of the damage. Announcing the American bailout in September, an American Treasury spokeswoman said the $700 billion figure wasn't based on any particular data point. We just wanted a really big number. Even when Gordon Brown announced his plans to give British banks a huge injection, they still wouldn't lend to each other. As the party ended, the bills came in. In 9 months, nearly $500 billion were wiped off the combined stock market value of the top 10 American investment banks. But where there's a crisis, there's an opportunity. Distressed real estate funds sprang up to take advantage of foreclosures in Florida, Nevada and Southern California. In Britain, spread bet bookies Capital Spreads cheerfully announced that spread bettors who placed a bet on Northern Rock's share price falling from £6.40 could have made a tax-free profit of £540 if they subsequently closed their position at 100 pence. And there were hedge fund managers too who predicted it would end in tears and placed huge bets accordingly. O'Day Asset Management bet on bank shares falling and made £55 million, including £28 million for their boss. Convinced the subprime bubble would burst, American billionaire John Paulson opened what he called the Paulson Credit Opportunities Fund in June 2006 and made a reported $15 billion, with over $3 billion for him personally. That's weird, isn't it? We all say, why didn't anyone see this happening? And when someone did see it happening and made $3 billion out of it, you go, you bastard! But for Gordon Brown, who spent the summer being short-sold by his colleagues, it was a lifeline. There is one consolation, because we in Britain are uniquely placed. In fact, only last month the OECD said that Britain is in a unique position of being the only one of the Western economies to go into recession this quarter, ahead of France, ahead of Germany, ahead of Italy, and able to take advantage of all the benefits of recession, like lower pound, cheaper exports, and, of course, fewer estate agents.
So tonight, the average British taxpayer can go to bed knowing that they have a share in 4 high street banks, that they sponsor the Williams Formula One motor racing team, that they have a controlling share in Zara Phillips, Andy Murray and Sir Jackie Stewart. And that is some comfort at a time when they owe £26,000 each on their mortgage, £5,000 each on their credit card, and £10,000 as their share of Britain's national debt. So please, don't have nightmares. We will be the rock of stability, and events like this only happen every 10,000 years, by which time we'll have a Conservative government, and you'll have someone else to blame. Good night.
Good night.
The truth about the distribution of wealth under American capitalism makes Karl Marx the world's worst prophet. Marx, the socialist founder of communism, prophesied that under capitalism, wealth would be concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer, while the great majority of people would suffer increasing poverty. The fact is that American capitalism has set a new standard for human welfare. And if we keep its basic principles strong and vigorous in the years ahead, the opportunity of every American for a still better living standard will certainly be enhanced. And perhaps even the disciples of socialism and communism will come out of their shadowy pipe dreams and join us in our march of human progress.
Next week on Silly Money, where does all the money come from? And what happens if it stops? Join us next week for The China Syndrome.